On a crisp autumn morning in the sleepy town of Livingston, Montana, a chill settled over the community. The tranquility of the day was about to be shattered. A local rancher making his rounds stumbled upon a sight that would forever change the landscape of their peaceful town. There, in a secluded meadow, lay the body of a young woman. The rancher immediately contacted the local authorities. Sheriff's deputies arrived to find the woman had suffered a fatal gunshot wound. The victim was quickly identified as Sarah Miller, a beloved waitress at the town's only diner. News of Sarah's murder spread through Livingston like wildfire. Fear and disbelief gripped the small community. This was a town where everyone knew their neighbor, where doors were often left unlocked. The residents of Livingston struggled to comprehend the darkness that had descended upon their town. Who could have committed such a heinous act? And why would they target Sarah, a young woman with a bright smile and a kind word for everyone she met? The search for answers began, casting a long shadow over the once peaceful town. Sheriff Tom Jenkins, a man known for his dedication and integrity, took charge of the investigation. He assured the townsfolk that no stone would be left unturned in the quest for justice. Detectives began interviewing everyone who knew Sarah, trying to piece together her final moments. They spoke to her friends, family, and regular customers at the diner. Sarah's family was devastated. Her parents, John and Mary Miller, were inconsolable. They described Sarah as a loving daughter who had dreams of one day opening her own bakery. Her friends shared stories of her kindness and generosity. They couldn't fathom why anyone would want to harm her. As the investigation progressed, the police found a crucial piece of evidence, a bullet casing near the body. This discovery led them to believe that the murder weapon was a handgun. A composite sketch of a potential suspect was created based on witness descriptions. The sketch was circulated throughout the town and neighboring areas. Posters with the sketch were put up on every bulletin board, in every shop window, and at every community center. The town rallied together, determined to find the person responsible. A candlelight vigil was held in Sarah's memory. Hundreds of people attended, holding candles and sharing their grief. The community's unity was palpable, even in the face of such tragedy. Back at the sheriff's office, the investigation team worked tirelessly, following up on leads and analyzing evidence. They knew that time was of the essence. Days turned into weeks, and the town of Livingston slowly began to wake up from its nightmare. But the shadow of Sarah's murder still loomed large. Sheriff Jenkins addressed the community once more, urging anyone with information to come forward. He promised that justice would be served, no matter how long it took. The townsfolk continued to share information and support each other. They knew that their strength lay in their unity. Sarah's memory lived on in the hearts of those who knew her. A memorial site was set up in the diner where she worked, adorned with flowers and photos. The detectives worked late into the night, driven by the desire to bring closure to Sarah's family and the community. Livingston, once a quiet and peaceful town, had been forever changed. But the spirit of the community remained unbroken, united in their quest for justice.
The Livingston County Sheriff's Department, a small team with limited resources, faced the daunting task of investigating the most serious crime in their town's history. The department, accustomed to handling minor disturbances and occasional thefts, was now thrust into the spotlight with a case that demanded more than they had ever been trained for. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on the shoulders of every officer, each one determined to bring justice to their community. The FBI was called in to assist, bringing with them expertise and resources that the local department lacked. Their arrival was a beacon of hope for the overwhelmed local officers. The FBI agents, with their advanced technology and seasoned experience, quickly set up a command center. They coordinated with the local police, sharing strategies and insights that would be crucial in solving the case. The collaboration between the two forces was seamless, each playing to their strengths in a united front against the unknown perpetrator. The meadow became a crime scene, swarming with investigators meticulously combing every inch for clues. The once serene landscape was now a hub of activity, with officers and agents working tirelessly under the hot sun. They searched for anything that could provide a lead, a piece of fabric, a footprint, or even a stray hair. The meticulous nature of their work was a testament to their dedication, each one knowing that even the smallest detail could be the key to unlocking the mystery. Forensics experts documented the scene, collecting evidence that would hopefully paint a picture of what happened to Sarah. They worked methodically, photographing every angle and marking each piece of evidence with precision. The evidence was carefully bagged and tagged to be analyzed later in the lab. The forensics team knew that their findings would be crucial in piecing together the events that led to Sarah's tragic end. The medical examiner determined that Sarah had been killed by a single gunshot to the chest. The autopsy revealed the devastating truth: a single bullet had ended her life. The report detailed the trajectory of the bullet, the damage it caused, and the likely type of firearm used. This information was vital, providing the investigators with a clearer picture of the crime. Time of death was estimated to be sometime during the previous night. The medical examiner's report indicated that Sarah had likely been killed between 10 p.m. and midnight. This narrow window of time was crucial for the investigators, as it helped them focus their efforts on identifying potential witnesses and suspects who were in the area during those hours. Interviews with family, friends, and acquaintances of Sarah began immediately. Detectives worked around the clock, speaking to anyone who might have information about Sarah's last moments. They interviewed her family, who were devastated by the loss, and her friends, who were equally shocked and heartbroken. Each conversation was a delicate balance of seeking information while offering support to those grieving. Detectives hoped to uncover any detail, no matter how small, that could lead them to her killer. They pored over case files, re-examining every piece of evidence and every statement given. The interview room became a second home for many of the detectives, who spent countless hours there, piecing together the puzzle of Sarah's life and death. They knew that the answer was out there, hidden in the details, and they were determined to find it.
As days turned into nights, the pressure mounted on the investigators. The relentless pace of the investigation took its toll, with many officers working long hours with little rest. The stress was palpable, as each passing day without a breakthrough felt like a failure. Yet despite the exhaustion, the team remained resolute, driven by a shared commitment to bring justice for Sarah. The residents of Livingston, hungry for answers, grew impatient. The small town, once a close-knit community, was now a place of unease and suspicion. Rumors spread like wildfire, and every new piece of information was dissected and discussed. The local news stations provided constant updates, but for many it wasn't enough. They wanted answers, and they wanted them now. The once peaceful town was now shrouded in suspicion and fear. The streets, usually bustling with activity, were eerily quiet. The fog that often rolled in from the nearby hills seemed to mirror the uncertainty that hung over the town. Police presence was a constant reminder of the tragedy, with patrol cars and officers visible at all hours. Every stranger was eyed warily, and the sound of a car door slamming in the night was enough to send shivers down spines. The community's sense of security had been shattered, and trust was in short supply. Neighbors who once greeted each other warmly now looked at each other with suspicion. The fear of the unknown gripped the town, making every shadow seem menacing. The investigation continued, a race against time to bring Sarah's killer to justice and restore a sense of security to the shaken community. The officers and detectives knew that their work was far from over. They continued to sift through evidence, follow leads, and patrol the streets, all in the hope of finding the person responsible. The weight of the community's expectations was heavy, but it also fueled their determination. They were not just solving a crime, they were fighting to restore peace to their town.
The investigation into Sarah Miller's murder was proving to be a complex puzzle. The detectives were working tirelessly, piecing together fragments of evidence, trying to make sense of the chaos. Each clue seemed to lead to more questions than answers, and the pressure was mounting. The secluded location of the crime scene yielded few witnesses. It was a remote area, far from the prying eyes of the public, making it difficult to gather any substantial testimonies. The isolation of the scene added another layer of complexity to the already challenging investigation. The evidence collected, while meticulously gathered, offered no immediate breakthroughs. Forensic teams worked around the clock, analyzing every piece of evidence, from soil samples to fibers, but nothing seemed to point directly to a suspect. The frustration among the investigators was palpable. Days turned into weeks, and the residents of Livingston began to lose hope. The once tight-knit community was now overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. The detectives, too, felt the weight of the unsolved case, their determination slowly giving way to despair. The case seemed to be growing cold. With each passing day, the likelihood of finding Sarah's killer diminished. The detectives were haunted by the thought of the case becoming just another unsolved mystery, a cold case file gathering dust. However, a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected source. Just when it seemed all leads had dried up, a phone call to the police station reignited the investigation. The detectives, weary but ever hopeful, listened intently to the new information. A local woman contacted the sheriff's department, claiming to have seen a suspicious vehicle near the meadow on the night of Sarah's murder. Her voice trembled as she recounted the details, but her conviction was clear. This was a lead that could not be ignored. She described a beat-up pickup truck, a detail that had been overlooked in the initial investigation. The truck, with its distinctive dents and rust, stood out in her memory. This new piece of information was like a beacon of hope in the darkness. This seemingly insignificant detail breathed new life into the case. The detectives, reinvigorated by this new lead, began to re-examine the evidence with fresh eyes. Every piece of information was scrutinized once more, and the sense of purpose among the team was palpable. The investigators, reinvigorated by this new lead, began combing through vehicle registrations, determined to track down the owner of the pickup truck. They worked tirelessly, cross-referencing records and following up on every possible lead. The breakthrough they had been waiting for seemed within reach.
The tip from the witness proved to be a turning point in the investigation. It was the first solid lead they had received in weeks, and it brought a renewed sense of hope to the team. The detectives knew they had to act quickly before the trail went cold again. The owner of the truck was identified as a local man named Dale Evans. His name had not come up in the investigation before, but now he was at the center of their attention. The detectives began to dig into his background, looking for any connections to Sarah. Evans, a loner with a troubled past, had a history of violence and drug abuse. His criminal record was extensive, and his behavior had been erratic for years. The more the detectives learned about him, the more convinced they became that he was involved in Sarah's murder. He quickly became the prime suspect in Sarah's murder. The police brought him in for questioning, and the interrogation was intense. Evans denied any involvement, but his evasive answers and nervous demeanor only heightened the detectives' suspicions. As the investigation focused on Dale Evans, a sense of anticipation filled the air in Livingston. The small town, once quiet and peaceful, was now buzzing with rumors and speculation. The residents anxiously awaited news, hoping for closure and justice for Sarah. Could this be the break they had been waiting for? The detectives felt a renewed sense of purpose, their determination stronger than ever. They knew that solving this case would bring peace to the community and justice for Sarah. Would justice finally be served for Sarah Miller? The community held vigils, their hope unwavering. They believed in the detectives and their relentless pursuit of the truth. The case was far from over, but the path to justice was now clearer than ever.